Hey guys, welcome back to Wheeling with Wally. Today we are going to be getting rid of this god-awful plastic front bumper on my Jeep Gladiator. So as you guys know by watching my channel, I really like to do a lot of off-roading in my Jeeps. So a big part of that is having a sturdy, strong front bumper for anchor points and just bash into stuff. So with that in mind, the bumper I chose to go with is a Motobilt Crusher HD Series front bumper with bull bar. And that little guy is right down here. This thing is pretty hefty. I think it's 3/16" thick steel. So it's not very light. It might take me and my fiance to get it up there without me scratching it up too bad. So my only con with these is that they do come in raw steel. There's no finish on them. I would love if Motobilt offered a finish for a few extra bucks. That would make my life a lot easier because it took a lot of time to primer and paint this thing. And I have their skid plates over here. All of that came raw steel too. That's going to be another video. Be sure to check that one out. That one's going to be good. So this bumper cost me somewhere in the neighborhood of $800 to $900 with tax. And to go with it, I got these Baja design lights. Those will go in the bumper. This is what Motobilt recommended with the bumper. I'll put a link to all this stuff in the description down below for you guys. If you look right here, these two pieces both go with the bumper as well. So again, I had to paint those. This is the winch plate, and then it's sitting on top of my new spinny built winch. It's a 12,000 pound synthetic line winch that'll go on the Gladiator. That's a big heavy boy, so needed a big winch. And then finally, this is the skid plate that goes with that bumper. You do have to purchase this separate from the bumper. It was another $300 to $350. And then again, I had to paint this as well. It came raw steel, so a little extra work there and a little extra cost. And this will replace that thin gauge skid plate that's already on the Gladiator under its bumper. So this is going to be a huge upgrade. Now with all that out of the way, the first step is going to be tearing off this old bumper and skid plate and disconnecting the fog lights. So the first thing you're going to need to do on the bumper is remove 8 of these little plastic clips. They're right here on this plastic strip behind the bumper. There are 2 that go straight down into the frame, and then it's hard to show you, but there are another 6 that are just on the back of this bumper. If you look at this clip real quick, you can see there are kind of 2 indents here and on the bottom here. You can just stick a flathead screwdriver in there on each side and wiggle it to pop that out. And then once that middle piece is popped out, you can just pull these out. So that's a pretty easy step. I went ahead and got all 8 of those clips out. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this piece of plastic up. It just lifts right out once you have the clips out. So the next step for me is gonna be removing this thin little skid plate down here, and that's just 4 bolts with 2 on each side. These bolts are a 13 millimeter. The skid plate's actually a little heftier than I thought it was, so good for you, Jeep. While I'm thinking about it, now that we have that piece of plastic out of the way, you can see the wiring harness right here, the clip that powers the fog lights. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this. It amazes me how easy stuff comes off on a newer Jeep compared to my old TJ. There are 8 bolts that hold this bumper onto the Jeep. They are at the frame. There's 4 on each side. There's kind of 2 on the inside and 2 on the outside at each frame mount. I'm going to take those off. It is an 18 millimeter socket. I'm going to get under here and I'm going to do the inside ones first, and then I'll do the outside ones when I'm not laying under it and I can support it better. So here's one of the frame rails. I don't know if I'll be able to get you guys up in there to see it or not, but right up in here are 2 of the bolts, and then on the opposite outside of the frame rail are the other 2 nuts. That's all 4 of the inside nuts, so let's get up and we'll hit the other 4 from the outside up top. I went ahead and took those other 4 nuts out off camera, so now let's go ahead and pull the bumper off. Pretty light, and honestly not too bad to remove, but the reason it's so light and so easy to remove is kind of why I'm replacing it. It's just not going to hold up long term. So that completes the bumper removal part of the video. If that's all you guys need to see, thanks for watching. Now we're moving on to the installation of my Crusher Series front bumper. So if you're here for that, here we go. So Motobilt does not send instructions in the box with their products. but on the product page for the bumper, if you scroll down to the bottom, you can find them online. It just has it at the bottom of the same page. For step one of this bumper installation, you're going to take the winch plate and you're going to take this bracket and you are going to bolt them together with the 3 bolts right here in the center of the winch plate. So I'm just going to kind of set them here and line them up. Take the hardware bag that came with it. I think with the hardware bag that comes with the bumper, all the bolts are the same 3/8 by 1 inch size, so you shouldn't really mix anything up. Just gonna grab 3 bolts, 3 of the nylon lock nuts, and then I'm gonna grab 3 washers. So you're gonna take your bolt, stick your washer on, and then you're gonna stick it through the front of the plate here, and then just go ahead and toss a nut on the back. Go ahead and stick all 3 of these in, and once you have all 3 in, just go ahead and tighten those down. So I went ahead and gently snug these down. I haven't cranked them all the way yet. I was just kind of looking at it, and for whatever reason, when you do that, you have this big gap on the top. It doesn't show that in the pretty light instructions that they have for this. So I don't know if that's a big issue. It still seems like the holes line up pretty good. So maybe when I add a bolt up here, it'll kind of squeeze it together. It's just in their instructions, it's kind of a digital CAD file looking thing, and they sit totally flat together. But there's no other way to attach this, and this piece is universal. There's no front, back, left, or right, so it's not on there backwards. So we'll see how that comes out in a minute, and we'll see if it causes me any issues when I put it on the Jeep. So this is the passenger side of the Jeep. So the orientation of this bracket on the passenger side would be just like this. So basically the bend goes towards the Jeep. These 2 holes will be these holes here, and then you'll remove this bolt and this bracket, and the top hole will reuse that factory bolt. So we'll remove this bolt. It is a 16mm. I'm gonna go ahead and set this up here and start this by hand just to hold it in place. So you'll need 2 of these washers and 2 of these bolts. I did put nuts on here. I don't need those. I don't know why I did that. These are your nuts. I'll bring the camera down here in a second to show you, but there is a hole in the frame right here. So you can take these nuts and you can stick them up through, and then you can line it up with the bolt, and you can feed the bolt through the hole here and thread it in place. These guys are also side specific. For the passenger side, you'll want the arm a little closer to the top and the bolt or the nut on the bottom to have the slightly longer side, because this goes deeper. So it'll go in like this. I'm gonna have to stick my face in the way to line this up. Got the first one started, now I'm gonna start the second one. And there we go. I've got all of these bolts started. Here's that quick look at the hole in the frame. It is just right here, and here's that tab. So you can just hold on to that and line it up with these bolt holes on the side. Put the bolts through while you're holding it, and then you can just crank it down. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these down, and then you'll just repeat the same process on the driver's side, and I'm just gonna do that stuff off camera. So with what I told you earlier about the gap here, I'm starting to see the issues I was afraid I was gonna have. I think this winch plate, the brackets are bent back where they should be bent forward and flush with this. So now it's not really wanting to line up because these bent back brackets are hitting the frame. So that's not awesome, because if I have to bend these, 1, it's gonna be kind of difficult, but 2, I'll probably have to do it in a vise, and I painted these, and I'm in the middle of an install now. So if that's the case, not too happy with that Motobilt. We'll see how it goes. So just to give you guys a closer look here at the issue. This is that weird gap I showed you earlier when I bolted this on. It shouldn't really be like that. This is all part of the winch plate. This is the extra bracket. So with this touching totally flush on both sides, you can see the angle that that's at, and then the bolt holes don't line up. You can kind of see the holes, but it should be more flush like that sitting on the bracket. And when it's flush on the bracket, you can't see the bolt holes at all, because it's pushed really far away from that because of the bend in there that shouldn't be there. So I just think when this was getting bent, this whole lip down here just didn't get bent enough, but luckily I can stick this in a vise and I can bend just the wing. I think that's pretty close. Obviously I'm eyeballing this and doing it with a vise and my bare hands. It's not gonna be perfect, but I think I can get all the bolts in now, so I'm gonna take it back over there and check. So let's try this again. Again, this lip towards the back. I'm gonna take it, you have to come down from the top and just slide it in, angling it a little bit, watching the bolts down there. and then pushing it flat. This side is pretty good. This side's still a pinch off. I'm gonna see if I can get the nuts in there though, or the bolts, I mean. So now that I know I can get all 4 of those bolts in, I'm gonna grab that bracket that bolts on the front of this, and I'm gonna go ahead and put that back on. This all sits perfectly flush now, like it should. I'm gonna go ahead and crank these down. I feel comfortable doing that now. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get these 4 bolts tightened down. Just remember on the bottom, you need to put washers on all 4 of them before you put the nuts on. So I've got that all tightened down now. One thing I have noticed is now on this side, these 4 bolts aren't really lining up, but since it's just bolted here and here for now, I think I can force those up and get the bolts in no matter what. Just not super impressed with that either. So the next part of the instruction says to stick the bumper on and basically bolt it on. Now, like I said, it's gonna be an issue with these not lining up. I think what I'll end up doing is rolling my jack over here and putting like a little block of wood and just jacking up this side so the holes line up, and then I can put the bumper on there without, you know, issues. The bumper's heavy enough. I don't want it not lining up and me trying to fight with it while I'm holding it. I'll probably scratch it up and drop it, and I don't want to do that. However, before I do that step, I think it would probably be easiest to install the winch now. So I'm going to get the winch out and get that ready, and then also I'm going to mount the lights onto the bumper before I put the bumper on here, because again, should be way easier that way. I don't know how much of that I'm gonna show because it's not a big deal. You're just kind of bolting it on here, but I'll show a little bit of it for you guys. So we've reached the part of the video where I drop in a shameless plug and ask you guys to subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you are, please drop me a comment down below and put a like on the video. All that stuff helps out. Here in about 2 weeks, I'll be taking this thing out to Colorado to off-road it on a few trails. It'll be the first time I'm off-roading this thing, so pretty excited about that. And if you are into TJs and you're new to the channel, I have a ton of content on working on this thing, modifications, and off-roading it out in Colorado and Utah and a bunch of other badge of honors throughout the country, mostly over here on the east, except for Colorado and Utah. So if you guys like that kind of content, off-roading, do-it-yourself videos, please subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Let's get back to it. This is my Motobilt X20 Generation 3 12,000 pound synthetic winch line winch. I doubt I'm gonna wire this thing up today, but I do want to get it bolted on there, and I'll worry about wiring it up some other time. So I got the winch on there, and just like with the winch, I think it's gonna be easier to get these lights on right now than trying to do it after I put the bumper on. Like I said, these are the ones that Motobilt recommends you get with them. It's actually on the page with this bumper. They come with 2 of these little brackets, 2 little bags of hardware. So if you look at your bracket, it kind of kicks back. That kickback should face basically the opening of the bumper, or if it's on the Jeep, it should face the grill of the Jeep. You take a bolt, stick a washer on it, stick the bolt through the bracket, take that, stick the bolt through the hole on this bracket, and then take another washer, put it on the bottom of the bolt, then take your nut, and this is another nylon locking nut, and then start to thread it on there, and we'll tighten that down in just a minute. Just get it finger tight for now. Now you would mount the light to that bracket. If you look on the light, there are threaded holes on each side of that light. You have the wire that comes out of the bottom, so this is the top of the light. Go ahead and set that down here. Take one of your screws and one of your little locking washers. You'll put the screw through the bracket, and then the locking washer will be between the bracket and the light body. Go ahead and put that in on one side. Start that by hand, and then spin it around and do the same thing with the other side. Until I get these completely tightened down on the sides, I'm not gonna tighten the bottom nut. I wanna do that last so I can get this turned and get my Allen wrench on these. So now I'm just kind of lining the light up in the hole in the bumper before I tighten it down. So now that I have it all lined up and the side one's tight, I'm gonna grab a couple wrenches and tighten down the main nut that holds the bracket to the bumper. So you'll need 2 9/16 wrenches, and you can go ahead and tighten that down. Now I'm gonna just go ahead and install the other light off camera. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, with this not being bent right, and then me having to bend it, these holes aren't really lining up. So I'm going to just bump it up with a jack and a block of wood just to push it up and make those holes line up, and then I can set the bumper on here. I think that's pretty close, so I'm gonna go ahead and try and get the bumper on. So I've got it up there. I'm just gonna throw a nut on each side real quick to hold it in place and keep it from falling off. That's good. Yeah, I like that a lot. Looks really good with that Motobilt winch on there too. So now let's just go ahead and get that all bolted up. So bolting the bumper on is gonna be pretty easy. It's just 8 nuts. So on the back side, just make sure you put a washer first and then the nut, and then crank them down. There's gonna be no way I can get in there to show you guys that, so I'll be doing this off camera as well. So it's starting to get a little dark outside, but I wanna go ahead and get this done tonight, so I'm gonna try and go ahead and force this skid plate on there. Honestly, I think it's gonna be pretty simple. I think it's 6 bolts total, and then I just have to remove 2 of the frame brackets, and let me go to my little parts spot over here. I gotta put these 2 brackets in their place. So if you're looking at the front of the Jeep, you come down here. These 2 bolts and this frame bracket are what come off, and same on the other side. You will reuse the factory bolts to mount this back up there. And then for the driver's side, you'll want the bracket where the slope is going back towards the vehicle, and it just lines perfectly up with those holes. There is some adjustment, it seems, in this, so I'm just going to try and make it match this frame angle. I assume that will be correct, but if not, I'll just come back, loosen this up, and slightly adjust it. So once you get that on there, go ahead and do the same for the other side. So for the brackets you just installed, you're going to need a nut and a bolt, but then for the 4 that go up into the bumper's actually got threaded inserts in it, so you'll just use a nut and screw it into these inserts. Let's try this again. So here's a quick look at the bumper in the daylight now. It looks pretty sharp. Big fan of it. Love the extra skid plate down here that is thick. That's going to provide a lot of extra protection for all those steering components. All in all, I absolutely love this bumper. I know I got a little sour in the middle when it seemed like that piece wasn't bent right. If anything slows you down in the middle of a bigger project like this, it can be pretty annoying, but this thing is top quality. I'm a big fan of this, and I'm really happy I went with this Motobilt bumper. I think it looks great on there. I think I'm ready to wrap up this video. I still need to wire up the lights and the winch, but that's not part of this install video, so I'll do it after the video ends. I hope this video helped you guys out. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please think about subscribing to the channel. Drop me a like down there if this video did help you. I'll be installing all these skid plates next, so be sure to check out that video as well. I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.